Former U.S. President Barack Obama is in Africa to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Nelson Mandela's birth and to deliver the 16th Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture in Johannesburg, slated for July the 18th, the late Anthea Party leader's birthday. But his first port of call is in Kenya, his ancestral home, as he is on a two-day visit to the country. He visited a small village of Kujalo in the western part of the country for the first time in 12 years. The last time was in 2006 when he was a U.S. Senator. He also attended the launch of the Sorty Coup Foundation, a sports facility and vocational training center for the youths run by his sister, Omar Obama. The former U.S. president made a low-key arrival to the East African nation compared to his visit in 2015 when he was still in office. He also had separate talks with Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta at the State House in the capital, Nairobi, and opposition leader Raila Odinga. The local media has dubbed his visit as Obama Homecoming. Mr. Obama will be heading to South Africa after his Kenyan visit to give the annual Mandela Day lecture on Wednesday.
A joy to be back with so many people who are family to me and so many people who claim to be family to me. Today, I'm really coming as a brother, as a citizen of the world, as someone with a connection to Africa, to talk about the importance of what she's doing, but also to create a larger context for what's possible. But as I looked around, I saw something that was less concrete. It wasn't bricks and mortar. I saw possibility. The hope that we can become something bigger than we are. The thought about all the young people in the years to come who will learn here and grow here and dream bigger than they do. The young people of this area, the young people throughout Kenya, the young people throughout Africa will learn that their voices can change the world. We've seen it happen before. It's going to be their voices that will help determine whether or not our leaders are held accountable. It's going to be their voices who are going to determine whether or not Kenya comes together, regardless of tribe and ethnicity, to build a better future.
Let's get on this story from an African affairs analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi, who joins us live from our Abuja studios. You're welcome to the program, Dr. Amadi.
Thank you very much.
So what impact will this visit have on the continent and for Kenya in particular?
Well, I think coming after Obama has left office, this visit helps to concretize its connection to Africa, to Kenya particularly. So we can say that Obama's connection to Kenya will grow with the years. And Obama is a former president who left office with so much international capital, especially with development and non-profit organizations globally. His presence in Kenya will help to focus attention to Kenya, especially with regards to human development, with regards to girl child education, and so on. So this, if Obama pulls his weight, as it seems he will do in the years to come, through his Obama Foundation, then that's good news for Africa. It will help to strengthen the work that people like former UN Secretary General, and of course Tony Blair has done in respect of development in Africa. So it's good for Kenya and good for Africa generally.
He's visiting Kenya now as a neutral person, but even when he was the president, he didn't visit Nigeria. And even now as a neutral person, he's also avoiding Nigeria. Why do you think he's yet to visit Nigeria?
I think as president, Obama didn't visit Nigeria perhaps because Nigeria didn't have a good image coming from the election fiasco and then the Yar'Adua crisis. Nigeria was then seen as a problem for Africa. And so I think from a policy point of view, Kenya was looking good. Kenya, with Uhuru and others, looked better as a better possibility for African development. So Nigeria had a problem then, and perhaps now, if he was in power, maybe we don't know what will happen. Now, since he has left power, I expect Obama to visit Nigeria because his new focus, which is development, Nigeria is a better proposition than Kenya. Nigeria, for example, with increasing poverty in this part of the country, Nigeria with higher girl child dropout than Kenya, Nigeria with even the northern part of Nigeria being a problem with development. I think Obama will sooner or later come to visit Nigeria, not as president though, but now as a human rights development actor, because really Nigeria is a better proposition. If you want to talk about African development in terms of human development, then you can't skip Nigeria. He skipped Nigeria politically because it was fashionable in Washington. It made some sense to name and shame Nigeria and perhaps put pressure on the Nigerian leaders to rise up and step up to the game. But now, as a human development advocate, Nigeria should be a next port of call. I think he will not skip Nigeria this time around.
Now, one message the former U.S. president seems keen to drive home is for African youths to take up the mantle of leadership on the continent. What are your thoughts on this, Dr. Amadi? Are we ready to take up the mantle of leadership?
I think there's been so much talk about African youth taking on the challenge, and Obama spoke while he was a president about the need for institutions rather than a strong man. I think he's taken up that theme here as a private citizen of the world. And the idea is that, look, Africa has tremendous human capital, an educated class. In fact, the population bulge in Africa is more or less of young people who are educated. And if all over the world, the changes in Europe, in Indonesia, in India, in the Asian capital continent came out of the entrepreneurship of young people, then Africa's chance, Africans rising is better represented by young people who are creative, innovative. And the growth of democracy in Africa, the growth of market economy, it's this proposition. And so what Obama is saying is what makes sense. And everyone expects that African youth should take up the challenge. But the point, therefore, is if you don't deal with the political economy, if you don't strengthen democracy, real democracy, if you don't improve governance, then African youths will be militated against in rising up to the challenge. So I think why they expect much from African youths, they should really bend down and dig deeper and build a strong economy, strong political economy, particularly strong leadership and strong institutions that will support and enable the rising of African youths as leaders and as entrepreneurs of the next century.
Now, focusing more on his visit to Kenya, we understand that he met with President Kenyatta and the opposition leader Raila Odinga separately. What is the significance of those meetings? Well,
Obama trades on symbolism, and meeting them is a way of also bringing his team, while the president was a team of inclusion, a team that America could become a post-racial society by bridging the divide. So here in Kenya, Obama would like to rally a consensus around development. And then these two leaders represent perhaps an opportunity to close rank and work together, especially in the context of the recent past, where we saw near polarization that would have possibly collapsed the Kenyan democracy. So this is another message to both leaders to close ranks and symbolizing Obama's sense of, standing for all. He doesn't want to get his message, kind of trapped in one political divide or the other. So he's reaching out to other parties and broadening his message, of course, giving more credibility to his visit as a doing of development and peace in Kenya.
Finally, on Wednesday, the former president will be delivering the annual Mandela Day lecture in South Africa. What do you make of his choice as being the guest speaker and not the current U.S. President, Donald Trump?
I think the choice is very simple, to choose between Obama and Donald Trump. You could see that Mandela represents the level of humanism that one can argue that Obama brought to office. Mandela would find it difficult to perhaps love or like Trump. They represent two different worlds. Mandela came out of prison with a message of inclusion and of caring about minorities. The president of America, as part of what is good policies or whatever we think about him, clearly is not on that track. So the choice of Obama represents also a continuing vote on humanism from South Africa. South Africa is a post-racial state. South Africa is a country that's trying to create a rainbow coalition, merge diverse people into one country. And Obama represents powerfully the image of the possibility of going beyond race and culture and creed. And Trump brings us back to the if you like, petty nationalism that Mandela and his colleagues stood against. So I don't think there's any problem or any difficulty choosing Obama instead of Trump. Obama is re-caught for that job he's going to do tomorrow.
African Affairs Analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much.
Zimbabwe's opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa, has vowed to rename the country Great Zimbabwe if he's elected as president in the upcoming July 30 polls. Reports say he made this known at a rally in the eastern city of Mutari, where thousands of his supporters gathered. He reportedly said that the current name is cursed, as all the national teams of different sports in the country are always defeated. In addition to changing the country's name, Mr. Chamisa spoke on his governance plans. He says Harare will remain the nation's capital, but the seat of government and parliament will be moved to Gweru City. The 40-year-old politician aims to be president in the first election after longtime leader Robert Mugabe was forced out of office.